Assalamualaikum and greetings to the all. Before I start the presentation, I would like to thank to the organizer for giving me the opportunity to present today. I am Nurul Afiqah Nordin, a Technology Education Master student at Universiti Teknologi Malaysia. Today, I will present a study entitled The Effect of Online Project-Based Learning through the Google Classroom on the student science process skill and a critical thinking level in the science subject for the primary students. As we know, the Malaysia Minister of Education has introduced a PBL in 2006 to each student equip the necessary skill for the rapidly evolving technology age and adapt to the technology investment. One of the most important goals for the Malaysia education plan is accomplished through the transformation by developing an objective desire for the better education country. So, what is a PBL actually? Okay, PBL is a teaching method in which a student learn by actively engagement in real world and a personally meaningful project. So, according to Stanley 2018, the project-based learning strategy to emphasize the development of the current education ability and the student accomplish through developing students' talent via the various multidisciplinary tasks and projects. So, as a teaching strategy, student-centered project-based learning in an innovative classroom approach in which a student actively interact with a real-world difficult and impediment to the better understand to the subject. So, what the aim in this research? The purpose of the study is to discover the result of the online project-based learning approach via the Google Classroom on the student critical thinking skill in the science subject for the primary student. This is to find where the cognitive and online project-based learning activity for the science subject using the Google Classroom platform can enhance the student critical thinking and the science process skill when they tend to the complete a science project or the other way around. So what the method be used in this study, we'll discuss in the next slides. Studies use a pre-experimental method where this method is a typical method to conduct a quantitative study where the convenience sampling is used in the study to obtain the data result. In the convenience sampling, the researcher will select 60 respondents from a Year 6 class in one school with a reliable internet access on the right device. The school is also active using the Google Classroom, which is important requirement for the research to be carried out on the project basis. In order to carry out this research project, a pre-experimental design, a pre-test and post-test, one group was chosen. So in the next part, I will discuss the process of conducting this study. The research process involves 7 phases. In the first phase, the researcher will design an online project-based learning teaching approach through the Google Classroom. Then, in the phase 2, the researcher will do a pre- and a post-science process skill test, a science infographic poster project, and critical thinking rubric. Next, in the third phase, a pilot test will be conducted to obtain a validity and reliability of the test instrument. Next, in the phase 4, the pre-science process skill test will be conducted. Then, in the phase 5, an online project-based learning lesson through the Google Classroom for the topic of the wasted material is implemented to develop infographic poster project. After developing poster infographic, the researcher will be repeated the process in the phase 4 where the pre and post science process skill will be done. And finally, to the last part, which is the phase 7 is the last part, the researcher will analyze the student's science process skill and the level of critical thinking skill. Next, the slide after this we will discuss about the result we receive. To answer the research question for the research question 1, which is to design an online project-based learning approach through the Google Cloud for the science subject, which the researcher will use the science topic for the Year 6 by combining all the 7 elements of the gold standard project-based learning used in the learning environments project-based. So, project-based, the gold standard 7 project have been, the element include the weekly to assess the level of knowledge student, have acquired the student lesson delivered through a Google Classroom by the end of the week. So, student will have to complete all 7 elements of the gold standard project-based learning, where the learning based on the gold standard project will involve a challenges question or a problems, authenticity, sustain, inquiry, reflection, student choice and voice, public product and revision, and critique. Next, we will discuss the result received for the second research questions. The result received to answer the article in the study used a SPSS to tabulate the data obtained to answer the research question into the mean score for the science process skill test. So, the mean score of the collective score on the pre-test and the post-test was compared with a difference in the score before and after treatment. Okay, science process skill test result before and after the intervention. The result received found that the R5 had the lowest pre-test score of 24%, while the R10 had the highest score of 47% in the post-test. R4 got the lowest score of 40%, and R7 got the highest score of 62%. Therefore, the range of the score for the science process skill pre-test is between 24% and 47%, while the range of the science process skill post-test is between 40% and 62%. Based on the data, all the respondents improved their score. So, R5 had the highest increase in the score, which increase of the 30%. In contrast, R10 had the lowest score increase, which only 2% increase. Next, based on the table 2, we shall show a summary of the mean progress achieved in the pre-test and the post-test science. Okay, so the pre and post science process skill for each element show the mean for the score for the 60 respondents. For the pre-test was a 37.1 and the mean score for the post-test was a 48.69. As a consequence of the average score going up by the 11.951 after the intervention that makes use of the project-based learning method via the online have been admin. So when compared to other elements, the skill of the observers show a growth in the mean of the greatest score, which 3.56. On the other hand, the element of interface did not experience any change in the mean score, which is a 0.00, which this element of the measure showed up the least mean score, which a 1.69. The majority of the science process ability that we evaluate in the pre and post testing show improvement in the mean score. Next, this study will discuss the result of the Wilcox-Sydney Recon test by analysis of the science process skill test. The Wilcox-Sydney Recon test was used to determine if there was a difference in the mean score before and after students participate in online learning using the project-based learning approach for the science lesson. Then, the following are the hypotheses that will be tested in this analysis. So, the finding obtained after being analyzed using the Wilcox-Sydney rank test for the both of the pre-test and the post-test was found that the significant, which is score that total obtained for the Wilcox-Sydney rank test for the science process skills test is 0.006. The score must be less than the alpha value, which is 0.05, for the null hypothesis to be rejected. Then, the null hypothesis was rejected because the score obtained from this analysis was greater than the alpha value, which is the 0.05. So, the null hypothesis was rejected indicated by the z-score value of the negative 2.731, and the value of the significant is the 0.06, is the lowest than 0.05. Referring to the previous metadata, in conclusion, there is a significant difference in the mean score between the pre and the post of the science process skill after the participate using an online project-based learning. So, participate in using the online project-based learning approach to the science lesson through a Google Classroom. The researcher in this study elevate the capacity of the respondent to perform the fundamental scientific process skills such as observe, clarify, measure, making, inference, predict, and communicating. So, according to Mary 2002, the process skill in the science are the fundamental and important component of the process of doing the scientific study under the guidance of the instructor. Furthermore, the science process skill are scientific information that is utilized to increase a student's ability in address learning difficult, finding knowledge, understanding the environment which the idea they have, and developing their personality. So, upon a complication of the online project-based learning, is it possible to conclude that the student's science process skill improved, the goal of the study was achieved. On the other hand, it suggests that scientific learning, especially in critical thinking, has been further improved by increasing involvement in activities that develop cognitive ability. As started by the Korean et al. 2021, according to the result previous research, the invention of the critical thinking ability in the process of the learning science may be elevated by using an appropriate method for the assessing learning. Important of the finding received to the answer the RQ3 found that this study have the positive impact on the level of critical thinking of the student of proficient level and overall mean value 2.25 are the result conclusion have given the answer to the second research questions. Based on the table 4.6 score, all the responsible are able to achieve the highest level score of the infographic poster development after the intervention passes, which determine the type of infographic poster question and the rubric suitable to measure the level of student critical thinking, their responsibility. Finally, PBL teaches students the significance of reflecting on the providing feedback on their work. In addition to giving students specific comment on their work after each assignment, teacher often provided timely comment during the class discussion. Students are then asking to assess their own performance and think critically about the development. They get the ability to assess their capability and make revisions to their course as a result of the process. Finally, the more teaching method can be utilized in the teaching to learning to get a positive outcome in the student academic score. Therefore, it's a time for the online project-based learning method to be included in the learning that takes place in primary school, particularly in the circle methods that call for the self-learning that is completely controlled by the students themselves. Then, the implementation of this intrastructural strategy is intended to the world result the production of the students who are more creative and competitive, so enable them to fulfill the goal or set of the Minister of Education in Malaysia, which are to create a student process 21-century skill which emphasize thinking skill in addition to life and job skills. Overall chapter of the research effective address all the findings that were obtained from the investigation and analyzed were carried out in this study. In addition, the consequence and limits of the research were examined and proposals for the redevelopment for the further study were also presented through the discussion. This research was effective in accomplishing a primary objective was to respond to the study question as well provide the online project-based learning via the use for the Google Classroom. As a conclusion, the research have effective show that the use of PBL using the Google Classroom to learn about the science have been beneficial, in fact, on the level of critical thinking ability possessed by the student as well to enhance their science process ability. As a result, now the approach incorporate this online project-based learning into the primary school curriculum, particularly in a situation where the student themselves must complete control their personal development. The following is a list of reference used throughout in this study be used as a references. So at the end of this study, I would like to say thank you to everyone who willing to listen. I hope this study will provide a very benefit to our education in the future. Thank you.